What would it feel like to be truly, deeply happy, regardless of your circumstances? Did you know that happiness is a choice and not a result? That you can create your life on purpose? Join us now to learn more. This is the Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. And here's your host, mindset coach, and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott.
Hello and happy Friday. Happy Friday. Welcome to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, and today we are talking about something very important. Today's show is called Breathe, Practicing the Pause. So, what does that mean? Stick with us. We'll get into it. It's a very important thing for us to learn. So, what I'm going to share with you first of all is what we do on this show, just so you're aware of the format that we follow. So, we talk about our subliminal soundtrack, and I'll give you an explanation of that in just a minute. How to get that working for us rather than against us. We talk about coming to a place where you can see your unique beauty and value and the contribution that you are to the world. So this is sort of the format that we go through every single show. And if you're new to us, I would love to have you join us each week. We come on Fridays, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 something or other Mountain Time. I don't know. I don't know. Find it on your time zone. Find it on your time zone. So on today's show, here's what we're going to do. What can you do when things seem out of control or you're feeling overwhelmed? And I'm going to tell you that I'm going through a little bit of weirdness with this morning. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but it's going to be good. I promise you that. So what can you do when you feel that way though? It happens to everyone. It is completely unavoidable in this lifetime. When we find ourselves in that state, it affects our ability to think, how we breathe, and it can create tremendous tension in the body, which can lead to all kinds of stuff. This can be a real problem, especially when it interferes with your ability to act or causes us to react. So, how can we get back to a place of calm? That is exactly what we're talking about today. So, if you're somebody like me who sort of go, and you really like to have sort of quick solutions, quick fixes, you like to move fast. I don't want to waste a lot of time. I want to move on to the next thing. If you're somebody like that, like I am, this is the perfect place for you to be. This is a practice that I have really had to work on over the years because if I function from that fast, 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 I've learned that I can be rash, I can be impulsive, I can say or do things that I don't really mean to say or do. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's what we're talking about today. How do we do this? How do we do this? So it may be easier than you realize. You just need to breathe. You just need to breathe. So again, we are going to talk about the subliminal soundtrack. I'll give you that explanation now. So the subliminal soundtrack is this, it's my term for this thing that we have, all of us have. It's this loop of messages that plays in the back of our minds all day, every day. It is made up of little bits of information that we've gathered throughout the course of our lives. So every conversation you've ever had, every relationship you've been part of, every lesson you've ever learned, every single experience has given you little bits of information that you've gathered and you've stored back here on that subliminal soundtrack. Now, we use that information to create our belief systems about ourselves and about everything else. Okay, so it's really important for us to get clear on what is going on back there. One of the explanations that I've come up with that people seem to really identify with is if when I'm growing up, my mother has a fear of February for some reason, doesn't matter what it is. If that's the case, then as I'm growing up, maybe she's communicating to me that February is the worst month of the year. It is the hardest month of the year. And Jackie, it's almost February. So guaranteed if this happens enough times, I'm going to be in a position at a certain point in my life where I'm going to look at the calendar and go, "Oh, it's getting to mid-January, February's coming. This isn't good. This isn't good." And I will be bracing for February to hit, even though, I mean, what's wrong with February? I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying? So those belief systems that have been passed down to us by well-meaning adults, the people that have been important as we're growing up, especially teachers, parents, family members, they pass on their beliefs and often we buy into them because we trust the source. Do you see what I'm saying? And maybe that belief system worked for them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the right fit or it's going to work for you. So this is what we do. We work on this subliminal soundtrack. We work on pulling out those messages, looking at what is good, what serves you, looking at the stuff that actually is creating limitation and roadblocks for you. We create new messages to replace the ones that are holding us back. And then we move forward in our lives, sort of moving toward the life that we desire and we deserve. All right. So that's really what the subliminal soundtrack is all about. And I'm going to tell you one of the most fascinating things for me about this, as I've worked with other people and talked with other people about this whole thing, is that what we believe to be true will be true for us, even if it's based on completely incorrect information. So look at my February idea. Look at that. It could be completely incorrect. I mean, maybe February is my favorite time of year. Do you see what I'm saying? But if I've bought into that idea that somebody else has given to me, then never actually ask about it or question it or whatever. We're functioning from autopilot. When we're functioning from the subliminal soundtrack, we're functioning from autopilot and we don't question. So it's important for us to create this mindset that actually is right for us, that contains those messages that will help us achieve the things that we want in our lives. All right. So that's your basic understanding of the subliminal soundtrack. This whole idea came to me sort of over a long time. It was probably 5 or 6 years the subliminal soundtrack took before it really came to me. It started out with a really quiet questions one day in the back of my head. It was, what do you tell yourself when you're not listening? And I went, interesting. What's that all about? And then over the years, thought processes and experiences caused me to really start to look at this, really start to look at this. And eventually the subliminal soundtrack idea was born. So what I do in my business is I do mindset and empowerment coaching. It is so much fun for me to do that, even if it's serious. We don't have to always be so serious. And I'm going to tell you about one of the programs that I'm really looking forward to later in the show. But we can do these things. We can address these issues in a lighthearted way sometimes. Sometimes we have to be serious, and sometimes we can do it with fun and laughter. You see what I'm saying? So that's where I really enjoy my work, is that fun and laughter and like getting to the heart of what's going on and what can we do to shift it. It's wonderful for me to do that. So if you're in a position where you are struggling with feeling stuck, or if you're going through a major transition like so many people are at this point in our history, because we're not quite through the pandemic yet. A lot of changes, a lot of stressors have happened over the last year or so. So if you're somebody who's in that position, I would love to help you. Just reach out to me. You can find me on here and on websites and on Facebook and all over the place. So that's what I'm going to say about all of that. All right. So now let's get into it. So what does, or how does the subliminal soundtrack actually affect this thing that we're talking about today? This taking a pause, practicing the pause. Okay. The first side of this is if you believe that you're somebody who wants to be successful, and successful means hard work, hustle, 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 work, 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 hustle, 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 work, work, work. There is, I'm going to call it an addiction almost, or an epidemic of this idea that we need to go, 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 right? We need to go. We can't, nothing's going to be easy. Like things can't show up easy for us, right? Yeah. So if you're somebody who is caught up in that sort of a mindset where I need to hustle, 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 then you are not likely taking the time to rest, rejuvenate, take care of yourself. And I'm going to call it that you're probably not having a whole lot of fun in your life. I'm just saying. Okay. And I know this because I used to live that life. I'm just telling you, that was one of the mindsets that I bought into years ago that I've had to break free from. And I have. And it's a lot nicer on this side of it. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. So if you are in that position, then life is probably not a whole lot of fun. Okay. But if you are somebody who actually has the mindset or the subliminal soundtrack that supports you taking good care of yourself, because let's face it, If I get sick because I push myself too hard, how far am I going to get? How much longer will it take me to get to that goal? Do you see what I'm saying? So if I'm smart and I know that I need to rest and I need to have some fun and I need to make time for the people and activities and things that I enjoy, then I will make time for those things and I will give my body, my mind, and my spirit the opportunity to rejuvenate and refresh. And when I am coming from that refreshed place, I will have more energy and I will probably have clearer thinking and all of that stuff. So it will actually help me to move more quickly toward my goals when I am in this space of I need to take care of me. I need to take care of me and my body so that I can do those things. Make sense? All right. So, if you would like to download a free copy of an article that I've written, you can find 5 steps to create a mindset wired for success on my website. Go to phoenixcoach.ca or subliminalmindsetmastery.com. That is a mouthful. I'm telling you, it is a mouthful. Go there. You'll find the free guidebook. Download it. It'll give you all kinds of information that can help you understand this process that we go through. In fact, I give you kind of the process in that in an article. So go ahead, download that, have a look at it. Now what we're talking about, I'm going to tell you the first time that I remember this whole idea of breathe showing up in my world. So I have these beautiful ladies in my life. I have a lot of beautiful ladies in my life, to be honest. I'm so blessed. But one is named Monique Gerber and the other is Jackie Thomas for the purposes of this conversation. They were running oh, what were they? I can't remember what they called, but they were running these workshops. And Monique has a ranch. She has a bunch of horses and I love horses. I love horses. So as soon as this came across my radar that they were running these workshops for women, to help us work through certain things and that horses were going to be involved, you can bet your cute little butt that I was on it. I was registered. I was like, done. I like these women. I like what they do. And they get to play with horses. You're kidding. You're kidding, right? Okay. So we go out to the farm, or the ranch the first day, and Monique gives us a bit of a talk about the horses because some people don't have a lot of experience, and I mean I have experience, but not a lot. So it was really important for her to explain some of this stuff to us so that we would understand in working with them. And she's very conscious of getting the right horses for what she does. So they're all gentle, they're all relatively quiet, they're all pretty easy to get along with. So the thing about horses is horses are prey animals. And what Monique explained to us that day was that being prey animals, they have to be very, very in touch with their surroundings. So they are masters at like sensing, intuition, shifting energy, all of that kind of stuff. They're masters at this because they have to be so that they can avoid the animals in the wild that would like to take them down. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is a skill that they have mastered in order to survive. And it is just this amazing ability for them to recognize that in anybody, in their surroundings, but also in people. So what happens with horses is they they need us to show up where our outsides match our insides. Okay, so the energy that we are carrying matches what we how we are being with them. And as long, I mean, it doesn't even matter what emotional state you're in, as long as those two things are aligned and congruent, the horse can trust you. If they are not, the horse will not trust you because they sense that there's something not quite meshing here. And that causes them to be fearful because of their nature. So they will not cooperate. They will not cooperate with you. So Monique has this beautiful big mare called Meta. And Meta is, man, she is built like a tank. She is huge, absolutely huge. Like her hooves are probably that big. She is huge. She is the leader, the female leader of the herd, so on and so forth. And there was a day that I went out there for one of these workshops, and I'm not going to tell you too much because I don't know if they'll run them again, and I don't want to spoil it. But what we were doing was we had to do certain obstacles. And then they would throw all these like little curveballs at us to make it more and more interesting as we went through the process. And so what was going on this one day was Jackie was sitting over there and just here's one of the wrenches. She was yelling really negative stuff. And it was like going like this, it's in your head, it's in your ear. You're trying to sort of block it out and focus on what you needed to do. At a certain point, I needed Meta to do a certain thing, and I don't remember what it was, but I needed her to do a certain thing. And so I was trying to get her to do what it was that I needed, and she wasn't cooperating. She wasn't cooperating because I didn't realize it at the time, but my energy had gotten completely out of whack. I was frustrated. I was bombarded. I was feeling a bit overwhelmed. So it wasn't working. It wasn't working at all. So what I did eventually when I realized what was going on was I stopped for a second. I stepped away from her. I took a few deep breaths. I got myself sort of into the present moment again. And then I went back and I asked her to do what I needed her to do. And she actually did it. So this is a thing when we are showing up in our world and our energy on inside and our energy on the outside don't match. What are we actually putting out there? And if horses can feel it, I wonder if people can feel it too. Very important for us to be congruent, authentic, and aligned in everything that we do. So that's what I've got for the first part of the show. We're going to head to our first break right now. So you're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about how and when a heightened emotional state can be helpful and what to do when it doesn't serve us to be in this state of mind and body. So stick with us for just a minute. We will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message? The world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about how and when a heightened emotional state can be helpful and what to do when it doesn't serve us to be in that state of mind and body. Very interesting, right? Did you know that you can shift it? You can shift it. We're going to talk about that. All right. So what happens to the body? And this is, I think, very important for us to understand because stress, we have heard for years, is not good for us. And what we are talking about is being in that heightened state of stress. So what happens to the body when we do that? Now, if you've ever been there, you probably already know that. This is the state where we can have severe anxiety and even anxiety attacks, right? So tension Tension is a big thing. Your shoulders are locked up, you're not moving, you're tight, you're up around your ears, all that kind of stuff, right? It also We go into this place where we're doing shallow breathing, and that this is why our breathing and being conscious of it is so very important, because when we're doing our shallow breathing, we're basically going into the top part of our lungs. It does not produce the proper breath, the proper intake of oxygen, so on and so forth. So shallow breathing can actually cause problems all by itself. Rise in blood pressure or heart rate. Adrenal exhaustion. Did you even know this? I didn't even know this until a few years ago. The adrenal gland, when we are going in a heightened state of stress for too long, especially in women for some reason, the adrenal gland can actually come to a point of exhaustion. And when that happens, there's all kinds of stuff we need to, and then we need to rest, right? Then we need to rest and we need to seek the guidance of someone who knows how to help us with that so that we can get that back on track, because our adrenaline is very important at certain points. So if you are in a state of adrenal exhaustion, then your adrenaline can't kick in anymore, because it's like the tap's been turned off. Does that make sense? The tap's been turned off, so that adrenaline can't flow anymore. So another thing that can happen for us is it can cause problems with sleep and digestive issues. Have you ever had one of those nights where you're worried about a bunch of stuff, or you're sort of you're chewing on something and trying to sort through it? How easy is it for you to rest and relax and go to sleep, get a good night's sleep for your body? It can be very difficult to do that, right? In the extreme, this can cause some pretty severe stuff. It can cause, heart attacks. It can cause strokes. It can cause, all kinds of really serious stuff to happen. And in the sort of normal state, even before it gets to the extreme level, it's going to cause you to be foggy, to not think clearly. Maybe you're really testy, and you're snapping at people that you really don't want to do. I mean, I've been there. I've been there where I've just bit somebody's head off and I'm like, oh God, that was not appropriate. That was not. And then you have to go back and apologize and all of that kind of stuff, right? So what we're working on right now is this idea that we can take it back before we get there. Take it back before we get there, so that when we're walking through these things, we don't go into that reaction. Okay? We don't snap. Do you see what I'm saying? So when can this actually serve you? When can this actually serve you? So I was having some strange thoughts about this morning, but I'll share with you one that's a really clear thing. So we lost my sister in a car accident 9 years ago, I think now. Anyway, we lost her in a car accident. It was sudden. It was also 2 weeks before my tax deadline, literally 2 weeks, 14 days before my income tax deadline. And I do income tax, right? So this is not good timing. This is not good timing. It was necessary for us to make a lot of arrangements, and the services, I think, were on the Saturday. So the accident was Monday, the Saturday was the services. So there were a lot of things that had to be done between Monday and Saturday to get everything worked out, right? So there was a pace that I had to keep, even though I was going through this incredible emotional upheaval. There was a pace that I had to keep in order to show up and do what my part of what needed to be done and support the people that I love as we are going through this particular week. It was also necessary for me to Monday morning back to work, because I've got a week left, not even really a week, to finish all of this work that has now been shoved aside for a week when the timing wasn't good. Do you see what I'm saying? So it was necessary for me to keep going throughout that. And I, for some reason this morning, I was thinking about like war for some reason. And all I kept on thinking about was that keep calm and carry on. Sometimes the best thing for us to do is to keep our cool and just keep moving forward. And it can be hard to do when we are feeling an extreme emotional state. Okay. So in those cases, it probably makes sense for you to continue, just keep going until you get to the end of it. But we want to try to make sure that those are short term situations, if at all possible, short term situations, so that we don't get into those extreme physical reactions. Okay. Also, this can be helpful when we need to take to take action quickly, because sometimes we don't have the luxury of time in business, in life, in family situations. Again, go back to the we had a funeral to organize, right? We need to take action. We need to keep going. Fight or flight is also another time when this can really come in handy. So, if there's danger or you need to do something or take action in order to protect yourself. So, where this really probably came in handy would be, when you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. Most of us don't live in danger zones at this stage in our development, at this stage in time. Um, so sometimes we can still have those. And the interesting thing, we're talking about the mind, right? We're talking about the subliminal soundtrack. The mind and body sometimes don't understand each other terribly well. So in one case, and I'm going to share a little bit about this when we get into our next segment, but for laughter yoga, one of the benefits of laughter yoga comes because our body does not understand when we are laughing on purpose. So we can create the same physiological reactions in our body by laughing on purpose because we don't know the difference. So on a physiological level, we can sometimes do these things that will cause a break or cause whatever. So our body does not understand sometimes that we're not being chased right now by a saber-toothed tiger. So we need to get a handle on our stress because our body is naturally built to go into like this heightened state of emergency almost when we get into that mental state. So it's important for us to get a handle on this. All right. When does it not serve you? When does it not serve you to engage in this heightened emotional state? First and foremost, I'm going back to because it is so important and I really want this to be really clear on any prolonged situation. If at all possible, you do not want to keep your body, your mind, and your being having to continue at that heightened emotional state. Okay. If it's a short term thing, it doesn't serve us because we need to focus on a task. Have you, again, let's go back to that when we were talking about trying to rest. If you are in a position where you are worried or concerned or whatever the case may be, it can be really hard to keep your focus. I promise you that week that I had to focus on those tax returns, that was a tough one. That was a really tough one to keep on task, to keep my mind in the place that I needed it to be able to do that work. So it does not serve us to stay in that heightened emotional space when we need to focus our attention on something. It does not serve us to be in that heightened emotional state when we are in an important meeting or an important conversation. It doesn't have to be a work or business thing. I mean, even with a spouse or a child or a parent or a friend, it doesn't serve us when we are in the middle of an important conversation to allow ourselves to be in that heightened. That's when you start to get impulsive and rash. That's when you start to say or do things that you may regret. Do you see what I'm saying? It's important, man. It's very important. When you need to make an important decision, it is important for you to get, man, I'm saying important an awful lot today, Kim. Oh my gosh. When we have to make a decision that is really carries a lot of weight in our lives, we need to be able to we need to be able to think clearly and to actually process things. And when you're in a heightened emotional state, it is reaction mode. We do not take the time, we do not have the ability to process clearly in that space. So when we need to make an important decision, this is when it doesn't serve us. Or, and this one is really important, when you're dealing with people that you care about and you need to be gentle. You don't want to say something to somebody that you care about. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can be frustrated, you can be upset. There's still a way that you can speak that is not going to wound. It's not going to wound, and it's going to convey things in a way that is easier to hear. If you start to bite at people who you care about, I promise you, at a certain point, they're going to get tired of it. They should get tired of it. And they probably should call you out when it happens. So if you want to be in a place where you're functioning well with the people that you love, it's important for us to learn this skill of being able to calm ourselves down and be clear and present in the moment as we're dealing with the things that happen, because they happen. They're going to happen. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. So when we come back from our break, I'm going to go through some steps on how to actually put this practice into play in your world so that you can do this. You can figure out how to calm yourself and be able to still think clearly and say the things that you need to say. All right. So stick with us. You are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. When we come back, we're going to go through some of the steps on how to calm ourselves when we need to. So stick with us for just a minute. We'll be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about how and when a heightened emotional state can be helpful and what to do when it doesn't serve you to be in this state of mind and body. So before we get back into the content here, I just want to share with you a few things. So there's a new program that I've developed, and it's called 6 Weeks to Sexy. Now, this is not about sex. I want to be really clear. This particular program has nothing to do with sex. What it has to do with is tapping into that deeply creative and generative part of ourselves that helps us with confidence, with courage, with taking action and moving toward the things that we desire. So we're not going to be talking about body parts. We're not going to be talking about sexual positions. Although, I mean, if that stuff does come up, then I'm not going to shy away from it, but that is not the content that I am creating for you. So this is going to be launching in the very near future. It is going to be so much fun. And this was the reason for me to create this. The pandemic has been hard on a lot of us emotionally, and I'm included in that. There have been times when I've really felt pretty low. So what I've decided is I need more fun and laughter. I need more playfulness in my life. And how could I do that? And bang, here this showed up. It's funny for me because often what happens for me when I'm creating these new programs is that it just sort of pops into my head, and it pops into my head fully formed. So I have the whole outline when it comes, and I really feel like that is some sort of, divine, spiritually led kind of thing. Anyway, so that will be launching soon. 6 weeks to sexy is what it's called again. And you can find out more information about that by finding me on Facebook or going to the website. The website is launching literally in the next couple of days. Yay. So I'll post on Facebook about where to find that information. And there should be a video coming in the next few days about all of the details. So find me on Facebook and you will see all of that stuff. And I hope that you will join me. It will be fun. It will be yummy. It will be a lovely space to tap into your energy that maybe you've never tapped into, or maybe you haven't in a long time. It's going to be fun. All right. So here we go. Are you ready? Have you got your pen and paper? If you don't, grab it now. All right. We're going to go in the steps here of how to do this. How do we practice the pause? So, this, first of all, this is a really quick thing. You do not need to have an hour necessarily to do this. So, this is something, if you find yourself in an important meeting, or if you find yourself in a position where you're having an important conversation, or any of those things, you can do this in less than 5 minutes. So, this is a thing that you can choose to pull in, and it doesn't take much. It does not take much. So the first thing, and we've already talked briefly about this in my experience with Meta, okay? The first thing we do is stop what you're doing. Just stop. Stop whatever you're doing. Um, if you're in a situation with other people, again, one of those meetings or important conversations, you can always say, "I'm sorry, I need to use the restroom. I'll be right back," or something like that. They don't need to know what you're doing. If you find yourself overwhelmed, if you find yourself in that space where things are moving too fast, I can't quite get a handle on this, and you're starting to feel that happen in your body and your energy, ask to use a washroom for just a moment. When you get there, you can do this process really quickly, and then you'll come back clearer, calmer, and better able to engage in a productive way. All right. If it's possible, because sometimes we have these things that it's not a quick thing, right? If it's possible, take a break and do something that's just for you. All right. So you can take a walk, you could meditate or pray, you could like get out of the house. Just get out of the house, go for a drive, like whatever you need to do. Get away from the environment that is causing you to feel those things. Allow yourself the space. Okay? Go for a walk, go for a drive, go visit a friend, whatever the case may be. Talk to a friend, partner, coach, or a counselor. Have a conversation and say, "This is what's going on. I'm not sure what to do." Because I'll tell you, the secret behind the talking is that often the things that are rolling around in our head seem so much bigger than they do when we actually spit them out. It's an amazing thing. Sometimes just talking about it can help us reach the solution, or can help us calm down, because we start to understand it's not as big of a deal as it felt like when I was thinking about it and I kept it inside. So let yourself have that release of talking to someone that you trust, and allow them to show up for you. Allow them to create that space where it's safe for you to do so. Another thing you can do is have some fun. Like go do a laughter yoga session. This is what I was talking about, right? Laughter yoga. And I'm going to tell you, this was so fascinating when I went to the training for how to do laughter, like teach the classes. It was fascinating to me because there was so much science that they brought into it. They had studies and they had videos and they had all kinds of information. But basically, what happens when we're doing this laughter yoga is you have to keep breathing to laugh. And when you're laughing hard, you're expelling that breath. So it causes you to have to do that deep breathing. And when we do that deep breathing, it actually calms our nervous system. It actually can create endorphins and all kinds of stuff in the body, especially when you combine it with the laughter. So something like that, laugh, go play with your kids, play with your dog. I don't know, watch a funny movie, whatever works for you. Whatever works for you, go take a break if you can and allow yourself just the space to be before you have to go back and deal with the thing. Okay. Now, second step is close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. You can do this again in the middle of a meeting. You can excuse yourself to the washroom and just be there for a moment. Deep breaths, what we just talked about with the yoga, the laughter yoga, right? The deep breaths, because that calms us, it soothes our nervous system, and it helps us get into a calmer state. Okay. Step three, center yourself, become present in this moment. And again, this is one of the reasons why we close our eyes and take a few deep breaths, is because it helps us to come back to the present moment. Generally, when we're getting into a heightened state of anxiety, there's something else going on. And often it's about a fear, it's an emotion that's being triggered because of whatever we're dealing with in that moment. It can be a number of different things, but very often when we find ourselves in this heightened emotional state, it has nothing to do with what's happening right now. It's an old thing that is coming back up. It's one of those demons that I talk about that we need to dance with. Okay. We need to dance with the demons. We need to allow ourselves the space to do that. Okay. But that deep breathing will help us to calm ourselves and bring ourselves back into the present moment with awareness and calm of right now. So we're not thinking about that baggage. We're not thinking about the fear and the upset or whatever it is that's causing you to feel the way that you do. All right. So, step three, no, I'm sorry, step four, be clear on what needs to happen. What needs to happen right now? So is this a situation, and again, I mean, there are times when we must act quickly if somebody has been hurt, if there's an accident, if there are times when we need to act quickly. We don't have time to embrace this calm, quiet place. We need to act. So again, when we are in that place, what needs to happen right now? Because this is a part where you are determining, am I able to take that time to go for that walk, or do I need to go into action mode right now? um, and what can you do in the moment? What can you do right now? So am I able to ask that we adjourn this conversation to later? Am I able to say, okay, I'm going to need some time to make this decision. I need to do some research, whatever it is, right? Are you able to do that? Or is it something that you must deal with right in the moment? And being in business, sometimes we don't have a lot of time. Sometimes we need to act quickly when things happen. Sometimes we don't have time to chew on it and really think it through. In that case, do the best you can with what you've got. Do this just for a few moments. Allow yourselves to breathe and think, calm, get that oxygen flowing, get your heart rate down, and get that monkey chatter to stop in your brain so that you can actually focus on what's important right now. The last step, step number 5, is return to the situation and try again. So, do you remember how I said when I was working with Meta that I stepped away for a moment? Now, I mean, I was holding on to her lead, so I couldn't step far away. Or she would have been way over there. She would have been way over there, and then I would have had to chase her down. And that's just not a fun thing. That's not a fun way to do these things. So I didn't even step far away, but I stepped far enough that I felt like I had a bit of space. I took a few deep breaths. I closed my eyes. I calmed myself down. And then I went back to the task that we were working on. And when I came back to the task, I had that energy of calm with me. And immediately she did exactly what I needed her to do. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I really learned an awful lot from that session. I promise you, I learned an awful lot about myself and about what I need to do when things are starting to get wonky and out of control for me. So we return to the situation and try again. Focus your attention. Okay. Again, go back to the prior step. What needs to happen right now and what can I do? All right. Focus your attention, keep breathing. And if you need to, step away again. If you need to, it's okay to step away again. All right. So those are your steps for how to get control of yourself when things are going a little bit off kilter and we're feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So, you are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. We're going to head to our last break of the show. And when we come back, we are going to wrap up this conversation about how and when it can serve you to be in that heightened emotional state and what to do when it's not serving you. So, stick with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, and we are in our last segment of the show. So we're going to wrap up this conversation about how and when it can serve us to be in a heightened emotional state and what to do when it's not, and we need to bring ourselves back. We need to bring ourselves back to peace and calm. So one of the things that I was really thinking about this morning as I was getting ready to do the show was when we act, when we act from that heightened state of emotion, we can be rash. We can make decisions that aren't good for us. We can do that snappy, snippy kind of thing with people that we care about. We can do all kinds of stuff and then later regret whatever has happened in that moment. The decision that we've made, the way that we've behaved, the way that we've spoken to somebody. So we want to be clear that that rash place is not, that's the reaction. It's the reaction. It's that like thing instead of when I'm clear headed and when I'm calm, I can speak to this thing or these people in a completely different way. Do you see what I'm saying? So one of the things about this, don't allow anyone the power to force you into anything. Okay. I've gotten caught up in this. And quite frankly, that's probably one of the places where this has been a real struggle for me before I learned about boundaries, before I learned that it was okay to say no, before I learned a whole lot of stuff. Don't allow people to push you into things. You are allowed to need whatever time and space that you need in order to make these big decisions or to have these important conversations. If you need to step away and you need to take a breath, you're allowed to do that. Unless the situation's urgent, in which case people are not probably going to be very um, hmm, generous with their time. And that makes sense, right? If it's something, again, if somebody has been hurt, we don't have the luxury of taking the time to pause and catch our breath. We need to act, and we need to act quickly. There are other situations like that will come up. So if it's urgent, then maybe you don't really get to do this, or maybe you do it really quick. Maybe you are someone who masters this skill and you've got it and you just do it really quickly. Pull yourself back into the present moment, because that's the other thing. As you practice this, you will get better and better and better at doing this. All right. When you get better at doing it, it's going to happen more quickly, isn't it? Yeah. So you practice it so that you can do it quickly. And take that time, though. Take that time. Don't let people push you into acting before you're ready. Okay? Be reasonable, though, because in all honesty, I've known people that take such a long time. And again, me being one of these people that's like, okay, let's figure this out. Let's get her done. And so there are times when I find that very difficult when somebody needs a lot of time. So be reasonable. And if you say, okay, well, I'll have a decision for you in the next couple of days, most of the time that works. And you might be surprised. If you're somebody like I used to be, you might be surprised that people will allow that. If you just say, look, I need to think about this. I need to think about this before I say anything. So give me a couple of days and I will get back to you, and then do it. All right, then do it. Or a couple of hours, whatever it is, right? If you've got the luxury of time, take advantage of that. Last thing that I really want to say to you today: protect your energy and your emotional, mental, and physical health. So, if there are a lot of people or situations in your world that cause this heightened emotional state and like continuously, you might want to look at those situations and those people and make a decision on whether or not this is something that is serving you to keep in your life. Because if it's costing you, if you are in that physical state all the time, remember we talked about that, this can be very serious. It can be very detrimental to your health. So if you find yourself in that position all the time, you may want to consider the people and the situations that you have in your world and whether or not it serves you to continue to have them. You are the only you there is. So I want to be really clear on this. There's only one you. There has only ever been one you. There only ever could be one you, because you are the only person who's ever been born on this planet with the same gifts and the same flaws and the same challenges, the personality, the characteristics, all of that stuff. You are the only person. Now, you are important to the people who care about you. So take good care of you and don't let people push you around. All right. So that's what I've got for you today. That is what I've got for you today. The quote that I want to leave you with: it's very important to understand that you always have the choice to function from a heightened emotional state or not. You're allowed to take the time and create the boundaries that allow you to become calm and center so you can think clearly and act rather than react. Very important. And you're allowed to do that. All right. So thanks again for joining me. Remember, if you find yourself or you know somebody who's going through a big transition in their life or really struggling right now, we have the option to do what I call a discovery call, 15 minutes free. Go to www.bookacallwithjackie.com and we can get on the phone. We can talk for a few minutes, see what's going on and what you need or what I can do to help you. All right. So I would love to talk to you. Please take advantage of that. We will be back next Friday. The next Friday's show. Oh, it's called Facing Your Fear, Breaking Through. We're going to be back on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 Mountain, and 10 Pacific. And we're going to be talking about what fear really is, how to use it, It does have its uses. It does have its benefits. So how to use it and what to do when you're caught up in that energy and paralyzed so that you can break through. All right. So that's next week's show. I am looking forward to it. That one is going to be a good one. And you may or may not, if you've been paying attention, you may or may not have noticed that the last several weeks we've been talking about different states of being. So that is sort of a theme that I'm going to keep on following for the next few weeks. I've got another thing coming up that we're going to be starting in a few weeks' time, but I want to stick with this. So we're talking about calm, we're talking about fear, we're talking about sexy, we're talking about all kinds of wonderful stuff. If you've missed one of the shows, you can find us on the website, and all of the podcast shows are links there. So thank you so much for joining me today on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. I so appreciate your time. I love being here with you. Have a great week.
Thank you for joining us for Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. Jackie Mott will return next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Have a fantastic week, and remember, it's your time to rise and thrive.